Hello and welcome to Customer Experience Leaders Chat by Nicereply, where we talk to support professionals from all over the world and discuss what's behind their team's success. This interview is brought to you by Nicereply, an all-in-one customer satisfaction tool that helps you measure and improve the quality of your customer service. My name is Craig Stoss, and I'm here today with Jacob Wick from the customer care team at Slido. Hi, Jacob.
Hey, Greg. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Jacob, you had an interesting entry point into customer care, and I thought it would be really cool to just start with that framing of this conversation. How did you get your start in customer care?
Sure. Well, I am an artist and a musician, and like most young artists and musicians, I decided that I needed to find some kind of day gig to have some more stable income. And also, like most artists and musicians, I decided that day gig was going to be in the service industry. So I started initially at Starbucks of all places, and then did kind of like a geographical and ideological 180. And like I was working at a Starbucks on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Maybe it was Upper East Side. Anyway. And then I changed to like an artisan coffee shop in the Lower East Side. And then from there, I started working in wine stores, and then one thing led to another, and I made a website for one of the wine stores, and then it became kind of like a tech support for this store, and then I started doing kind of what I would call like holistic tech support on a freelance basis for about 5 years. And just recently in March, joined the Slido customer care team, finally. So it's been a winding journey. But it's been super interesting, and I feel like I've picked up a whole lot of like different kinds of skills and ways of viewing people and interacting with customers along the way.
Yeah, that's a very unique path into customer care, which often has kind of a more of a technical foundation. So this unique experience. How did that shape your view on support team, and what did that bring to the current role you have?
Well. When you start in the service industry, the first thing you're told is the customer is always right. And then at some point, hopefully sooner than later, for me it took a long time actually, you learn that the question of who is right and who is wrong is completely irrelevant to pretty much any customer-related experience. And what you really need to figure out is, what does this customer want to do? What is their goal? And sometimes you even have to help that customer articulate what their own goal is, because from artisan coffee to fine wine to a complex web-based application, sometimes people don't have the vocabulary at the start to even say, I want to do this thing with this tool. So yeah, and it's like, in these situations, it's really unhelpful to think about, am I right? Is the customer right? Or is the application right? Is blah, blah, blah right? The question is always, what's the goal and what can I do to support this person on the way to their goal?
And how have you been able to bring that to both your role and at Slido as a company? How does that mentality permeate inside your organization?
Well, it was already there. Like for your listeners who don't know, Slido is a web-based application that you can use to increase interaction at your virtual or even in person, if you are living in a part of the world where you can do that, meetings and events. And it has an incredibly broad range of applications. So I've talked to people who are using Slido to run a quick poll at their like 5-person remote team meeting. I've talked to people who are using Slido to orchestrate interactions at like 3-day-long conferences with 16 speakers and 5,000 participants. I talked to somebody from Sam Houston State University in Texas yesterday who wants to use Slido to encourage the Shire students in her 250-person lecture class to submit questions. And with a tool that has so many potential use cases, you have to have a much more broad approach to dealing with customers. You can't be like, this is the one way you have to use Slido. You have to see all the various ways that a person could use Slido to make their scenario, like achieve their goal. And then from all those possible options, pick the right option for that particular person, and then support them on the way to realizing their goal. And all that was already there when I arrived, which I think is why I feel comfortable at Slido, and why, as far as I know, they are comfortable with me. Yeah.
And so how does that mentality that is already there in helping customers be successful in the wide variety of places you support, how is that something that is maintained in practice at your company?
Well, Slido's core values really drive a lot of the company's workings, I guess. And the core values are don't stop, we care, and simply clever. So that kind of ties back into what I was saying, that these values were already there when I arrived. Like we, at customer care and throughout the entire company, we take the time to figure out what it is that people need. We want to support them, and we want to encourage them on their way to getting what they need. And finally, we want to find the way that makes the most sense for them how to do it. So on a practical level, Slido support permeates all layers of Slido. It's not just like there's like a random support team in a room taking calls and making chats, and they just stay in that room and are kind of siloed off there. First of all, everyone in the company is encouraged to pick up rotation shifts, is what they're called, during each quarter, during each month, in fact, to have kind of like a front line experience with their customers, to try to touch base on actual personal level with people who are using Slido, with people who are having trouble using Slido, with people who are having a great time using Slido, so that they can really so that everyone can have an intimate relationship with the people who are our customers and with the people who we are making this tool for. Slido is a support-driven company, and that means, for us, that means that the product is developing in a symbiotic manner with our users. We rely pretty heavily on tagging, and we review those tags very thoroughly to see what things are working, what things are not working, what people like, what people don't like, where people are having troubles that maybe we would not have anticipated, so that we can see things from more perspectives than just our own. Because even though, as thoroughly as we think about, as thoroughly as we test, as thoroughly as we discuss internally how to build the product, how to present the product, and how to support the product, there will always be things that we don't think of. So these interactions with clients are super vital in identifying areas that we can make Slido more usable, more approachable, and ultimately more useful for everyone who's trying to use it. Also, interactions with support is built into the onboarding process, which is pretty substantial. We have like a 2 or 3 week onboarding process, and everybody has some interactions that are support related, whether they're in the development team or in a customer facing team. Everybody has some kind of exercise that mimics or actually is an interaction with the customer. So it's really a company-wide thing.
Bringing in cross-functional teams into support must build a lot of empathy and understanding of your customers' struggles within your company. But is that something that's perceived well? Is it seen as a chore to do that? Or are people excited to get into customers and talk to them at a support level?
I think everybody recognizes that it's valuable to have these one-on-one contacts with customers. But of course, within the company, everyone has different kinds of personalities. If I mentioned in our little introduction there that I spent some time as a freelance like tech support person, and then evolved some front end and back end development. And I can do that stuff, and I recognize why it's important, but I don't like actually doing it. So there are definitely people who would maybe not view working on a rotation shift as something that they really super want to do, but everybody does recognize that it's valuable, and everybody does recognize the value of having support in it as a central part of how the company works and not a peripheral part of how the company works.
I think that's a cultural thing that a lot of companies strive for, and it's interesting to hear that it's actually working in practice for your organization. Ultimately, support is here to benefit our customers. How do you think a program like this brings benefit to the customers?
Oh, I mean, I think it's hard to even put into words how much benefit it brings to our customers. I mean, people have a direct line to Slido, and they feel related to the product itself. They feel related to how the product is being developed. They feel like somebody is there for them, which is usually literally true. We have 24-hour support 5 days a week, and we're always checking our emails to make sure everything is going okay. The important thing is that our customers and people who are using Slido feel supported on their way to making their meetings more interactive, which can sometimes be, a pretty complicated process. I think the benefits are honestly nearly endless.
And that's a great sentiment with which to end this call. The benefits of all-hands support and empathetic support are nearly endless. Jacob, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much, Greg. I really appreciate it.
And thank you all for listening to Customer Experience Leaders Chat by Nicereply with today's guest, Jacob Wick from Slido. Make sure to check out other support interviews and more quality content at nicereply.com.